Welcome to Hope for Med.
Hope for Med.
All right. Welcome back to the Hope for Med podcast. I'm your host, Dr. JB, and today's featured guest is Dr. Goodman. He specializes in physical medicine and rehabilitation and is a leader in the field of interventional spine. Welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So, Dr. Goodman, please start from the beginning. Tell me a little bit about your origin story.
My origin story. Oh, that's an interesting question. And I'm not sure where this is headed, but currently I live in Birmingham, Alabama, and I practice in Birmingham. And I've been in the same practice since I finished my residency at Emory in Atlanta. So I've been practicing for about 28 years.
Okay.
I grew up, though, in Birmingham, Michigan. So basically Birmingham to Birmingham. And I grew up, wanting to be a doctor. I was also a tennis player. I played tennis in college. And so sports was very interesting to me or important to me. And so I chose physical medicine and rehabilitation because it could combine my passion to do medicine with orthopedics. And it did not, it was non-surgical orthopedics. So it was more of a holistic type of field. It allowed to pursue medical treatments that were more outside the box than necessarily inside the box.
And so why ortho in the first place? So why did you decide to even pursue medicine in the first place?
To pursue medicine in the first place, I went to this private school in Birmingham called Detroit Country Day School, and a lot of my friends wanted to be doctors. And so at that point, I was just following the crowd, if you will, toward this path toward medicine. But along the way, I discovered that medicine was a phenomenal career because as a physician, you could do anything. What would be an example? Michael Crichton, for instance, is a famous author who writes books, who's a physician. So as a physician, you can be a writer if you want. As a physician, you can be a lawyer. As a physician, you can be a businessman. As a physician, you can take care of people, sick people. It's unlimited to what you can do. However, if you are a lawyer, it's very hard to turn around and then restart over, reset the thermostat, let's say, and pursue medicine. So medicine is, to me, the ultimate specialty that leaves all your doors and all your choices open. It took me a while to find physical medicine and rehabilitation because back when I was in medical school, which was 86 to 1990, this concept of non-surgical orthopedics really didn't exist. So I chose physical medicine and rehabilitation to try to make non-surgical orthopedics fit. Okay, but there really wasn't a pathway for me, a defined pathway at that time. So I had to sort of invent my own path.
And you did a great job doing so.
Well, thank you.
So how has that experience been?
Well, it's been very rewarding. I mean, I tend to stay on the cutting edge of really cool technologies that, in a way, offer non-surgical treatments for people's back problems that would have previously required a major operation. So much like in cardiology, how they put balloons in the vessels to obviate the need for massive open heart surgery, we have technologies now that allow us to treat many spinal issues and also non-spinal issues with much less invasive treatments. And in the future, you're going to see a much wider adoption of, let's say, stem cells to maybe regenerate the disc or regenerate various cartilage structures to, instead of putting a Band-Aid over a problem, potentially really heal it or fix it.
So that's
very exciting.
That's extremely exciting because oftentimes, you hear about medicine and a lot of what we do really feels like just putting Band-Aids on stuff and not really healing. You hear the infectious disease doctors say, oh, our field of medicine actually heals. We find the right antibiotic and the person is cured. So that's amazing.
And that's true. I mean, oftentimes I say to my patients, listen, I'm just a glorified hairdresser here. I'm not getting rid of the gray hair. I'm just putting some color in there.
Yeah.
So there are times where I am not really fixing the problem, but I am able to alleviate the symptom, and oftentimes for a prolonged period of time, which is still very rewarding.
Indeed. So, during this career of yours, have you ever experienced any symptoms of burnout?
Not burnout, no. Maybe frustration, but no, I haven't really experienced burnout. And probably that has something to do with the fact that my patients in general aren't dying.
About that. What do you mean?
And my patients in general are getting better. So it's very, what I do seems to be very rewarding without the downside of having major complications. So if I had a patient with a major complication from something that I had done, I don't think that my psyche would actually handle that very well. So I couldn't be a surgeon, for instance, because if I cut a nerve or paralyze somebody, or a patient developed a severe infection from something I've done, which are all consequences, which are all risks of major surgery, I don't think that my psychology would be able to handle it. So I have been fortunate in that I've managed to pick a path that is compatible with my gifts and my psychology. Does that make sense?
It does. So, along those lines, do you feel like one of the causes of burnout is, bad outcomes from patients?
I think bad outcomes. I think perhaps, one of the frustrations is dealing with, let's say, a patient who would be labeled drug seeking. And a long time ago in my career, over 20 years ago, this is before OxyContin was known to be a bad drug. Okay. I knew that I was not going to do pain medicine management because I found early on that patients were not getting better on opiates, and actually then were developing two problems. They had their original problem, and then they had chronic pain with a dependency on opiates. So,
that's right.
But if I were dealing with certain populations constantly, or if the insurance company were to get under my skin more, I can see ways of getting toward burnout. But I love what I do, and I really work because I love working, and for no other reason. So it would be hard for me to burn out because in general, my patients really, I guess, stroke my ego a lot in terms of they are very appreciative and they tend to do a lot better. So I get a lot of positive feedback. But I guess if I got a lot of negative feedback, even though I was doing a great job, say I was an oncologist and all my patients were dying of cancer, even though I was, let's say, prolonging their life, I don't know if my psychology would be able to handle that.
Yeah. So tell me more about what your day-to-day is like. So are you working for yourself? Are you employed? Walk me through that.
So every day is different day to day, which is nice. I go to multiple operating rooms throughout the city. I have 2 offices in the city, so I'm in private practice. And I work with 10 other orthopedic surgeons. I have a partner who is also a physical medicine and rehabilitation specialist. And we train approximately 4 fellows a year. So we actually have a teaching program as well.
Okay.
So I get the joy of private practice and the benefits of that. And I still have a very strong teaching program where we're bringing in fellows, doctors that have finished their residency, looking for more training. And I get to teach what I love. I get to coach, like coaching tennis. And the fellows, they take care of a lot of the paperwork, a lot of the nuisances that doctors would have. So that's another reason why I don't burn out is I'm around people that are fascinated and they're engaged and they want to learn. And I don't have the headaches of the charting to the extent that most doctors in private practice do.
And so you don't have to take any of your paperwork home with you?
No, I don't take any. I do take some home because a lot of times I'll start working on my notes the day before. So I know, so when I get to work, I'm hitting the ground running. Know what's awaiting me. But yeah, I generally finish my paperwork before I go on to the next thing.
So, that separation between work and personal life is definitely one of those factors that I've, found that really kind of leads people down the path of burnout. And it seems like you've created this nice system for you where you're actually able to separate those two.
Yes. I work hard and I play hard. Like I told you before you started recording, my fiance lives in Orlando. I travel to Orlando a lot. I play tennis down there all the time. She's an artist. I also do art. I do pottery. I'm not very good at it, but I love doing it. So I play tennis and I play hockey. So I have a lot of, if I wasn't working, I would be plenty busy. Again, the reason I work, it's kind of like another activity for me. It's something I enjoy. I'm very lucky. Finding work you love can be, that's really, that's just a blessing for me.
Indeed. And was this always your setup ever since you finished your training, that you've been working at the same location with the same setup, or did you change jobs?
No, I've never changed jobs. I've always had the same location. Well, when I started, our office was connected to the hospital, and my group, we built our own office building, but I've been with the same people, the same group the whole time. I've had this fellowship, this training program for probably over 20 years. I've trained probably maybe 100 fellows. So yeah, this system has been in place for a relatively long time.
That's amazing. Nowadays it's hard to find somebody who has stayed in the same job for, that length of time. Yeah.
I guess I don't change much. If you looked at my email address, Dr. Spudhead, for instance, when the email came out, I never thought it would be the thing that we communicated with. I thought it was going to be like the CB radio. You might not be old enough to remember the CB radio. But yeah, I never bothered to change it. It's just, that's who I am, you know? So.
And the other thing that's really, sorry to interrupt you, but the other thing that's really amazing about your story is, you know, like you said, you work hard and you play hard. And so you've been able to maintain some of these other extracurricular activities that allows you to, you know, keep your life diversified, which also helps in preventing you from going down the path of burnout.
When I can't play tennis or do my athletics, I do get cranky. So, and I'm not one who likes what I call rabbit machines. I am not one who can go out and jog or who get on a treadmill or ride a bicycle. I need sports. I need to, you know, play a sport. And so if it's raining outside and I can't play my sports or I can't find somebody to play with, I do get, you know, it does affect me. So I know that I need physical activity for my, not only for my cardiovascular health, but for my mental health as well.
So when did you realize that was something of vital importance to your life?
You know, I grew up with it. I'll go back to my high school, which I started in 4th grade. So I went 4th through 12th to Detroit Country Day School.
Okay.
Their motto was mens sano in corpore sano, which means sound mind, sound body. So the high school itself, the preparatory school itself, they believed that playing sports was equally important to academics. So in my high school, sports was required. It wasn't an optional activity. It was a required activity. And it was really felt to be as important as scholastics. And I'll tell you, some of the people that went to my high school, you may not have heard of Steve Ballmer. He's the CEO of Microsoft. He owns a basketball team. I'm not sure which one. I think it's one of them in California. I can't remember. Robin Williams went to my high school. There's some famous athletes. I can't remember their names. I play sports. I don't follow sports, but it was a very good preparatory school. So I grew up with that concept. It was ingrained in me as a 9-year-old that being physically active is vital, just like being scholastically active is vital.
And I like that. Go ahead.
Yeah, sound mind, sound body. It's a great motto.
And I like the fact that they're equal. You know, they're just as important. And so you carried that motto with you throughout the rest of your training through medical school. You made time to, you know, stay physically active, and then residency and beyond, you've continued that.
Well, yeah, in medical school, I was the assistant tennis coach at Emory, so I worked with the tennis players. I started playing ultimate frisbee in medical school. I restarted hockey in medical school. I restarted pottery in medical school. So I never stopped having an extracurricular activity. Now, I didn't do those all the time, and naturally, you know, during exam time, those activities slowed down. But I've always have been doing something in what I'll call the other arts.
And you value the other arts, because so often in medicine, you know, those other arts, those other healing arts are actually not highly valued.
That's unfortunate. It's unfortunate if that's true, but you're right. I do value time is my most valuable asset, and I hate to waste it. And it's taken me a while to realize how important sleep is, because I like to do so much. Where I tend to steal time from is, and that's not a good thing. Sleep is very, very important
for both your physical health and your mental health.
That's right. That's right. But
so when you say it took you a while to realize that, what happened? What made you realize the importance of sleep?
I just think that in the last 10 years, I think there's just been more attention in social media, in medical media, in offering and promoting the concept that sleep is important. Mm-hmm. But back in the 80s and 90s, I don't think we really thought about sleep that much. Yeah. We thought about smoking and we thought about weight loss, and weight loss is still a huge issue. Mm-hmm. But I don't think we really thought about sleep when I was growing up in the 70s, doing medicine in the 80s, and training in the early 90s.
Mm-hmm. 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 And some people, I think you have a pretty regular schedule, right?
Yes.
You're not flip-flopping. You're not working overnights or anything like that.
No. And that was hard. I remember during my internship, I did 36 hours in a row because I had a really busy medicine service, and I was on call and patients were sick. And in Atlanta, we worked at Grady Hospital, the indigent hospital, and I had to do everything. I had to hang their antibiotics. I had to draw their blood. I had to put in their Foleys. I had to put in their NG tubes. There was just a lot of stuff that had to be done. It was very intensive. And I remember falling asleep on my way home, on my drive home, falling asleep at a red light because I had literally worked 36 hours straight. And there's no way I could have kept that up for 4 or 5 years. There's no way. So, one thing about physical medicine and rehabilitation, that specialty and that residency training, it does have relatively regular hours.
What are your hours?
Well, a good question. They should be 9 to 5, but really I start really early. My first patient, I generally get in the OR by 6 a.m. and I've taken care of like 10 or 15 people by 8:30 in the morning doing procedures. And then I see patients in my office, look at imaging, order MRI. But I'm generally done by like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So I start early. I start around 6 a.m. Means I get up around 5 a.m. But I'm generally done by about 4, generally.
Those are pretty long days.
Well, they go by fast. I love it. And then I, on the tennis court or the squash court, play some tennis. Like today, I couldn't find a tennis or squash game, so I'm pretty bummed.
Okay, so what are you going to do today then?
I don't know. I haven't figured it out yet. Probably.
What was that part? Probably what?
Probably eat.
Eating is also very important. Along with sleep, along with exercise, nutrition is also very, very important.
Very important. And I have my ideas on that. I mean, I'm not a big believer in juicing. I don't think we should drink our calories. I think we should eat our calories. We need to eat more apples. It takes a long time to eat an apple. But nutrition is very important. I agree.
And the right nutrition, to be correct, not just all nutrition, but the right things.
Right. Yes, that's what I meant.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So tell me a little bit more about what you're doing now, in terms of the video. Can you elaborate a little bit about that?
Oh, so I kind of started Doc Talk Live just for the pandemic, and I've kind of slowed down lately on it. But I enjoy medicine. And so I think you are doing a show to bring hope for medicine. Mm-hmm. I think medicine is the greatest specialty, the greatest field that anybody can pursue. And I find what doctors do incredibly interesting, especially in other fields. So I haven't done this yet, but I'd love to go in and do a live open heart surgery on Facebook, and people can see, what's going on, and they could type in questions for the surgeon. And I want to try to make medicine more accessible to the lay people and not so intimidating.
Okay. So when you're going around and doing these videos, like what's the process? So do you first find a patient and then get consent, or how does that go about? Or how do you go about that?
Yeah, I usually get verbal consent. I don't go through all these forms like you do. Sometimes I will interview a patient. We'll talk about their journey. Like let's say they have Parkinson's, they're going to get a deep brain stimulator. There might be other people out there that have severe Parkinson's, they have movement disorder, and they want to know about that. Or somebody's getting their knee scoped or their shoulder scoped, and that you can show that anatomy really well live while the surgeon is actually looking at it and repairing it. And I'll put a microphone on the surgeon and let them talk while they repair it and things like that. I've done shows with nurse anesthetists. There's one that's very big on helping people with burnout, calls it compassion fatigue. And he has his own little thing on compassion fatigue. The formats really vary, but or I could do a Zoom like you're doing and link it up to Facebook. And I'm not quite as adept at when I do Zooms as in terms of getting people to type in questions and things like that. But it's just something I tinker with. It's nothing that I'm great at, but it's fun to do and I like doing it.
And when did you start?
About, I'd say 3 years ago. I've probably done about 100 different shows. If you go to Doc Talk Live, there's probably links on that webpage somewhere to the YouTube videos. But yeah, it's called Doc Talk Live. Okay.
And do you ever follow up with those patients to see how they did postoperatively, like 3 months?
No, because they're not my patients. But yeah, if I was more organized, it would be great to have more longitudinal type of follow up in terms of their care. Absolutely.
And I can imagine like patients who are interested in those procedures, they'd probably want to know, okay, so we met you before the surgery, we saw you during the surgery, and so now how are you after the surgery? Was it worth it? Was it not? Those would all be, interesting questions I'm sure people would want to know.
Absolutely. And if I were more organized or I had a staff, I would definitely do that. But for instance, I had a friend in another city say, I had shoulder surgery and my rotator cuff repair failed. Could you do a show on failed rotator cuff repair? And so I went to a surgeon locally and we did a show on failed rotator cuff repair that she could then access in another city. So she would know the questions to ask her doctor, or she would know the questions in terms of how can I find the right reconstructive shoulder surgeon for my particular problem.
So this is just another example of how you're utilizing your skills and diversifying your skill sets that helps in terms of combating burnout, right? Not only, through the playing hard, but also, using that creativity and coming up with these other outlets. And then also, the amazing thing about video is that it has much more far-reaching abilities than our day-to-day when we're taking care of the patient in front of us.
Yes. And that's probably the next chapter of my career, because Doc Talk Live, for instance, doesn't make any money. It's not a nonprofit thing. It just doesn't make any money. It just is what it is. I'm not a businessman, but I'm doing it. So that's why I do it. And, I'm a little bit when I see patients in the office, I saw back pain, neck pain, knee pain, back pain, shoulder pain, back pain, and after a while you get tired of the same speech over and over again. So the beauty of video, like you say, and the beauty of social media and the beauty of these other creativity outlets is perhaps it'll allow me to reach a wider audience without having to constantly repeat myself. That's right. And that's probably where my career will head, because having done this over and over and over again for 27 years, that part of my job gets tedious. So discovering these new technologies, that's pretty cool. That doesn't get old for me.
Yeah. There's always going to be patients that have back pain, knee pain, shoulder pain. As an emergency medicine physician, I see them all the time, but if you could have a video that really addresses it, says, oh, go watch my video. I talk all about this, or I have a series all about different treatment modalities for your various musculoskeletal discomforts.
The thing about back pain, which was true 30 years ago and it's true today. The thing about back pain, as opposed to knee pain or shoulder pain or hip pain, is in the back, there are no good back surgeries. Yep. There's bad back surgeries. Now, that doesn't mean that surgery isn't necessary. People hear that and they think that back surgery is not necessary. That's not true. But there are no good back surgeries. There's only bad back surgeries. So if you have severe knee arthritis and you get your knee replaced, you basically have a new knee. If you get your hip replaced, you have a new hip. If you get your rotator cuff repaired, your shoulder is actually going back to normal. You look at baseball pitchers, they get surgery. Like Tommy John got surgery, came back, and he was better than he was before the surgery. But in the spine, in general, there's no good surgery. So there's always going to be a place in the near future for a non-surgical person in the spine.
Yeah. Oftentimes we say when you have back pain, like, do all these other things, start with anti-inflammatory medicines, muscle relaxers, physical therapy, and make surgery or surgical intervention the absolute last alternative.
Yeah. But a lot of patients need it. They really do. It's just, unfortunately, the surgery does not restore the anatomy to what it was. So if you blow out a tire on your car, you can replace your tire. But what the surgeon does is they cut away the piece of tire that's blown out or remove some of the fender. And then you can get back on the road. But the car is not really repaired. It's just fixed so it can function.
So, along those lines, I know we're reaching the end of our time together. Do you have any last minute words of advice or wisdom for fellow healthcare professionals in terms of how they can have a career like you, where you love what you're doing and avoid the syndrome of burnout?
Well, I guess they have to figure out what it is they really enjoy about their career and maximize it. So as an example, I used to see a lot of workman's comp patients. And a worker's comp patient is somebody who's been injured at work. And I had a very hard time getting those patients better. None of them wanted to return to work. Yeah. Part of the insurance with workman's comp is that they compensated when they were off work, and they would be compensated maybe 80% of what they would make if they were working. And I'm not sure, they might not have had to pay taxes on that compensation. So basically they were compensated not to work. And consequently, a lot of those patients had a had a hard time being motivated to return to work. And so they had a hard time being motivated to get better. And so seeing those patients was very challenging for me because very few of them, at least in my hands, would get better. And so I stopped seeing that subset of patients because I was not doing the job that I felt needed to be done to help those people. And so you've got to, I guess, figure out, what your strengths and weaknesses are and who you can and can't help, and then focus on use your time to take care of those patients. That would be a personal example of where I had to remove a part of my practice because I knew why I didn't enjoy it, and I didn't enjoy it because I felt frustrated that I couldn't help these people. And then, of course, having a life outside of medicine, sports or art or whatever is important as well. Friends, just socializing with your friends, having support systems in place.
This is hope for med, new day for med, for us, by us, and just for us. This is hope for med.